Okay, so this is 40, 50 big blinds. Small blind button. 987. Yeah, see, it's great when you've got like all these sims, except for when you try to find something, and then it can be a pain in the ass. Yeah, those are in order. Cool. So 987 down here. No, okay, I'm gonna solve this one. Can have thousands of them solved, and it's never the right one. So yeah. So anyways, my thesis is basically like that the river's a call, right? So you bet small. So check flop. Villain bets small on the turn, bets small on the river. We're gonna call and lose. And it sucks to call and lose, but it's still important to I think to constrain like the king queens and the queen tens, because he's gonna if like whatever bluff he's gonna have a high frequency check with lots of different types of air on the flop. It's not just gonna be ace high air. He's gonna check that flop a lot because it's bad. It's an intimidating flop. So if he checks hands, he's gonna be checking lots of different types of hands. So we assume he's checking like king queen and king jack and stuff. And the odds that your opponent's laying himself, I think it's more important to like not let king 10 win the pot or not let king jack win the pot than it is to like occasionally call and just like lose against what is going to be top pair sometimes, or a top pair a lot. So I would call. I also think that when you think about this mathematically, he's betting 5.5, total pot's 26.5. Like you're going to use something like a 1/5 fold, so 20% ish fold. If I had to guess, maybe it's slightly more than that, but I don't think it's way more than that. So if you're using something like a 20% fold here, you've got draws, right? Like you've got king 10 yourself, you've got queen 10 yourself, you've got busted diamonds yourself. So I think if you just think about this, you would have to believe that there's going to be an overfold on this river to like start folding pairs, just because you have so many busted draws to fold. So now your opponent is supposed to have a 30% check. This isn't finished solving yet, but it's going to actually solve as we like go through it. So we're going to be, by the time we get to the river, we should be good. So your opponent's checking around this amount, though. Looks like it's going to go up a little bit, but it's not going to go up by a lot. So check flop. You have a high frequency check. Your hand was totally clean to check.
Yeah, I can still see it. You completely froze though.
There you go. Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah. So where's king 7? There we go. Your hand pure checks. I think that's pretty obvious though. So like king 8 also pure checks. King 9 doesn't really bet much either. It's really important that you have the straight draw components. So like jack 9, jack 8, jack 7, like they bet better than like king 9. So like the actual hand strength doesn't matter. You need the support from the straight draws. I just think it's worth bringing up.
All right.
Turn was a 2 of clubs. Opponent checks. Doesn't really do much betting after check flop, which I think is something people fuck up a lot. But like when your opponent has the types of hands that they would check, they just mostly just keep. They have the same types of hands. They should mostly just keep checking. Your bet does open up in position a bit, but king 7 continues to check, which is good. And then there was an ace. Oops, turn did not check. Yeah, he bet small on turn. And you've got a very low fold percentage, which I talked about. And river's ace of spades. And opponent bets way small again. And I believe, we are actually overfolding MDF, which is nice. We're not overfolding it by some like fucking insanely high amount, but we are overfolding MDF. So we'd expect fold percentage here to be 86 over 373. I think it's 23%. Yeah. So we expect fold percentage to be 23%. And it's 36. So we're clearly overfolding MDF in this situation. It makes some sense because like the ace is like going to take out, it's good for him, right? Like it fills out a large fraction of his range, but you can also see that there's still like all these bluffs here, like king queen or
right.
Ace X takes out a lot of the opponent's bluffs, but there's still bluffs here: king queen, queen jack, etc. So what do we do with our king 7? We still pure call.
Right.
So my thesis around pure call, for the reasons I mentioned, was right, and then the full percentage is probably not going to draw much. Is still such that it's an overfold versus MDF, which I think is interesting. So we can keep going. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, but you probably okay. So you're struggling because he's short. So that's great, and it's great just because we can just illustrate really quickly. 30 BB. What do we do? Big blind button, just so you can see it. And it is tighter because you're short, so you can see like the offsuit tens here are definitely folds. You can see like some suited offsuit jacks, which are normally calls. So if we look at like 50 big blinds, for example, like queen jack and king jack don't fold. This is 30 VB. They are folding here because we're shorter. If you look at 50 VB versus small blind 3-bet, you can see that they're pure calls. The 10s are calls even. We can look at 60 VB, and they continue to be calls. So at deeper stacks, like for sure, those hands are calls. At shorter stacks, like the offsuit 10s, the offsuit jacks, like those hands start to be folds here at this 30 big blind stack depth. So your first instinct is correct, which is like, okay, we're short. I need to fold more. I don't want to defend the same type of range. I'm going to introduce folds. So that part's great, right? The problem is we don't get to fold suited ace highs. So we do get to. So we do. Your instinct is correct to try to find hands to fold that you would otherwise defend, because I know that you would call this normally, but you got to think about how to do it, right? And so the hand you want to identify like which hands deteriorate the most. And the hands that deteriorate the most are like low-end suited connectors because you're short. So drawing to a straight or drawing to a flush doesn't make much sense. So 5-4 suited, 6-5 suited, those hands have deteriorated pretty substantially. And then king jack offsuit, queen jack offsuit, they don't have enough. Those hands have deteriorated. And then suited ace highs have not, right? And like, suited king 8 plus, queen 9 suited plus, like those hands stay in. So this hand's pure call.
All right, guys, I'm going to give you a super quick explanation of what these charts are. So we can pick one of a huge number of situations. We've got spin and goes, we've got ICM final tables that you can choose from, but we're just going to pick a generic spot, 50 big blinds, 8 max. What do I do if I'm under the gun? You do this. This is the under the gun raise first in strategy. If it folds to you in middle position, what do? You do this. If it folds to you in the low jack, you do this. If the small blind limps, okay, limp first in. If the small blind limps, this is what you do in the big blind. This is your big blind strategy at 50 big blinds. What if under the gun opens and I'm in the big blind? Then you do this. What if the cutoff opens and I'm in the small blind? Then you do this. So this gives you the complete strategy. It's comprehensive. It's all of pre-flop. You don't need anything else. It's only $20 a month. I've paid thousands of dollars for this material before. Okay? This is what you need to get better at No Limit Hold'em. Go get it.
So that hand's going to be a pure call also.
Right.
So we can just check another quick model. Just take a quick look at 40. So this hand's not going to be foldable.
This is what I want to talk about.
Sure. So
This 3-bet's 5%.
Sure. So open it up.
Small blind.
So there are two things that you're going to do. There are two things you're going to do. One of them is you're going to look at when you open up the. So first things first. In the steal positions, especially, it's different if you're in an early position. If you're in an early position and you're playing and you're in the chaos of playing and there's a lot of tables going, it's totally fine to see 5% 3-bet and then like fold your hands that you think are worth close to zero. That's defensible as an adjustment. It doesn't work versus the steal positions. That kind of like shortcut's very lazy, and it's going to get you into trouble versus the steal positions because there are a lot of people who 3-bet versus the button or the cutoff very aggressively, but they just only have the nuts against under the gun. That's very common. Like they don't want to 3-bet under the gun with queen jack suited, or they don't want to 3-bet against under the gun with 6-7 suited. But they don't mind doing it with kings, right? But against the button and the cutoff, you do want to check. So when you look at that aggregated small blind 3-bet of 6%, that aggregated small blind big blind 3-bet of 5, it tells you that they're tight from the blinds, as a 3-better from the blinds, no doubt. But when you look at that 3-bet versus position, it's still 10% against the button. Do you see how low it is? When you look at 3-bet versus position, which is the bar that I'm most interested in, he's 3-betting somewhat reasonably, not loose enough. That should be higher. But he's 3-betting reasonably against the button. And look at his versus EP, look at his versus MP, look at his versus cutoff even. Like his versus cutoff's just way too tight, right?
Right.
So against the button, I'm not saying he's in line, but he's not only bladed. He's not like ridiculously tight. So I would make an adjustment here against that. Now go back to your hand. So what sort of an adjustment would I make? Because that's what matters, right? So again, in this type of vein, it's very helpful to think about where is the sensitivity in my range? Because you can't just be like, oh, he's tight, and then fold everything that's not the nuts. Like that, he's not that tight. He doesn't have no bluffs. So where is the sensitivity in my range? The sensitivity in the range is most of the time in offsuit combos, which you saw at the shorter stack depths, right? So Jack 10 offsuit, Queen 10 offsuit, like those types of hands will be some of the hands I fold first. When you think about defending versus 3-bet, from the big blind versus small blind, or when you think about defending versus 3-bet from the big blind versus, from the button versus big blind, or from the button versus small blind, when you think about either one of these scenarios, and you can map both, you can see just how wide the ranges look in models. And the sensitivity is going to be in offsuit combos and then at the bottom of the ranges of the suited combos, right? So when we look at the suited combos that we have to defend versus 3-bet, we're going to see hands like Queen 6 and Queen 7 and Queen 8 suited in the defending strategy versus 3-bet.
Right.
And I would fold some of those against someone who's tight, right? I would fold Queen 6 suited here. I would fold, Queen 7 suited here, Queen 8 suited here, maybe Queen 8 suited, maybe not. But I would fold Queen 6 and Queen 7 and maybe Queen 5 against a player that I knew was too tight. But I wouldn't fold Queen 9. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
I see what, yeah, exactly.
all right, nice. So let's keep going. So I would defend it here. And yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's fine. Oh, I don't even know what you're gonna do. No, that's a call. Obviously, it's a call. So that's not fine.
Yeah.
But I think that you probably just, I don't know, maybe time.
Yeah, I don't know what that.
But yeah, that's a call. Yeah, that's fine. It's a really small size, but it's
Right.
also really far off of the hands we would normally defend. So as we make our kind of incremental expansions against a 3-bet size that we don't think is very good, this hand's a bit of a step too far. So I like to fold. Keep going.
Mm.
Yep, I like to fold. Keep going. Definitely can't fold.
Yeah.
Got a call. Could be a bubble or something, but you cover him. So I would probably still have called.
Yeah, I don't. It makes no sense.
His through it's 10%, which is high enough. Or sorry, so his through it's 8%. Okay, if we call this one, which is I saw a double. I thought we were looking at the old hand again, but only because it's the same hand. It's fine. Yeah, keep going. So I like the pre-flop call, I like the flop call. Don't mind bluffing the turn. Don't mind checking. I think both plays are fine. That's annoying. Yeah, I would have actually thought about that river call. And it is cheap and it is small, but it's very difficult for him to have bluffs. The bluffs we would assume the bluffs would be 6-7 suited or 7-8 suited. The constraints around those bluffs being there is very low. And it's not even that tempting for him to be bluffing because you don't have much air in your range, right? You have straights, trips, or an ace because of the hands you would call the flop with. So I think that it's reasonable to assume that this range might be short bluffs. This range is probably short bluffs and overweight value.
Right.
And I don't think you have to clear an MDF here. So I think that because of that relationship, because of the way his range is structured, where I think he's probably short bluffs, I don't think you really have to clear an MDF. And your range is just too strong, and you have so much ace X in it. I would have folded this hand.
Okay. You gotta go, right?
Yeah, you have to go. So, all right, cheers, brother. Thanks very much.
All right,
And we'll speak soon. Bye.